All right, good afternoon. Today we open the garden. It's the 40th anniversary of Ben Franklin Community Garden. A little bit of history. The school bought this property back in the early 1920s. The back portion of this land, so this area was used for demonstration gardens for the Cleveland Public Schools. And they introduced gardening to students, and the program ran for almost 6 decades. In 1979, when busing was introduced, the school district eliminated the horticultural program, and the school planned to turn this garden area into a bus depot. The residents didn't like that plan, and they fought to keep the garden. And the residents and teachers who fought for the garden won, and in 1981, the garden opened for the first time as a community garden overseen by the Old Brooklyn Development Corporation. This year marks the 40th year as a community garden. It makes the garden the oldest and largest community garden in the county. To commemorate that, we're going to plant a tree. It's called the Ben Franklin tree, which is very apropos. A little history on the tree as well. This tree was discovered by John Bartham and his son William in 1760 along the Cuyahoga River in Georgia. And they named it for their friend and benefactor, Ben Franklin, and the river Cuyahoga, something like that. Thus, it's called the Franklinia Altamaha. That's right. It's extinct in the wild since at least 1803. Nobody's quite sure why that is. Every one of these trees is a descendant of the 50 seeds that John Bartham discovered in 1860 and brought back with him and nurtured. And he would sell seeds and native plants from America to the English, and that was a chap named Peter Collinson, and they were friends through correspondence, and that's why Mr. Bartham made his money by selling stuff to the English and Europeans during that time period. And without him, we wouldn't have these Ben Franklin trees. They're also a very unique species. They've never been hybridized or crossed with anything because they're a unique species and there's nothing to cross them with. So they are what they are, and they've been the same way since he discovered them in 1760 and probably before that. I found out a lot about this from a book. It's called The Brother Gardeners. It's Botany, Empire, and the Birth of an Obsession. It's by Andre Wolf. If you ever get a chance, it's a great read. If you like history, it's great. If you like gardening, it's great. If you like both, it's even better. So without further ado, we're going to put this in the ground. They say this is a relatively tricky plant, which is one of the reasons it probably went extinct, is because it doesn't really transplant very easily. But we're gonna do our best to keep this guy alive here, and it should grow at about 20-25 feet tall eventually. They say that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So we're going to do that. All right. When you're planting a tree, the first thing you do is you need to dig a hole about twice the diameter of the pot that it's in. And the old way of doing it was to put a bunch of amendments into soil and compost and manures and stuff. They say now that that's not a good idea with a tree because you want the roots to go out into the native soil and find their own nutrients. And they eventually, in the long run, they do better that way. The only thing I'm going to put in here then is a bit of peat moss in the bottom of the hole, because peat moss is slightly acidic, and these plants like a slightly acidic soil, and not a lot, so you wouldn't use like the azalea type of feeds for that, which is very acidic for like blueberries and that kind of thing. So we don't want to do that, but we want to add a little bit just to cover our base. Put that in the bottom, and then I'm going to add a bunch of water. It's been quite dry out here, so I'm going to take this out of here. And then we got to get this out of the pot. Come on. Nah. Then we're just going to backfill this in. And we want to plant that about the same height as it was in the pot. And heel it in a little bit. That looks about straight. And here's the fish emulsion again. If you watch the other videos, it's just fish emulsion. It smells bad. It's 511. And it's usually pretty good to put on when you transplant stuff to give it a little bit of a feed. And the final thing is we're going to mulch this a little bit. Got some weed block paper here. That's actually just paper. And apply some mulch. This is mostly, stole it from over, Greg had this over there. This is mostly, looks like fir pine tree chippings. They're slightly acidic as well, but eventually they won't be. When they break down, they become neutral. And the last thing, we put our marker in. And that's it.